Jim Cramer, host of CNBC's Mad Money, has recently come out talking about how people shouldn't try and lower their taxes. I'm going to share with you his tweet and give you my thoughts. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. Now, I've watched Jim Cramer for years. He's been on television for a long time. No doubt he's a great entertainer. No doubt he probably has some good insights. But I came across this tweet and I wanted to respond. This is from a little while back where Jim Cramer tweets, after these revelations, he's talking about some of the stuff with some of the billionaires who've been paying very little. Which now we're seeing with Elon Musk isn't so little at all as he sells shares. But after these revelations, I think we have to start thinking about avoid, as in tax avoidance, as a twin to evade. We are all allowed, even encouraged to avoid, but these revelations make me sick and will be used at some point against rich people in this country, all rich people. Now, I happen to agree with that very last part, that I've always said culture is important. If you've watched me, you've heard me say it 100 times. Culture is important. There are cultures where I spend my time where you'll talk to people and they'll say, I don't look in someone else's pocket. You make what you make. I make what I make. Hey, I'm doing better than I was 10 years ago, and that's cool. Now, is that going to last 100 years from now? Maybe not. I do not, for one, plan on living to 137. If I make it the next 5 years, I'll consider that a blessing. But, cultures do ebb and flow. And as we've said, like the nomads on the Mongolian steppe, you have to move. And so just as your ancestors moved from somewhere, especially if you're living in North America, your ancestors came from somewhere. Every once in a while, if you want to go where you're treated best, you may have to move because the culture of where you're living now is not the culture that your ancestors came to, where opportunity was abundant, at least so they say. You may, if you are going to become a successful person, have to make a change because, as he says, all rich people will be targeted. And I don't think the average person knows much of the difference. I remember growing up, my father would say, if you make 50 grand and your neighbor makes 60 grand, you kind of think he's like a rich jerk. Maybe you resent that guy a little bit in some cases. And so do most people know the difference between 10 million, 20 million, $100 million, $1 billion? I don't think they do. I mean, every once in a while, I'll Google someone that I'm interested in. And the question will be, is so-and-so a billionaire? That will be one of the suggested searches. Everyone's a billionaire these days, right? And I don't think people really know what it means. I think a lot of people think that to be a millionaire, you need to make $1 million a year. Blame the public education system, but I think that's what it is, and I think Jim Cramer's right on that point. Now, he's saying we have to start looking at tax avoidance as a twin to tax evasion. I want to be very clear on this because I have been interviewed by a number of magazines and newspapers and radio shows and TV shows recently. And one question that comes up, we talk about citizenship renunciation. And the go-to thing is, oh, people do that to avoid taxes. Let me be very clear on this. I've shared my feelings. I've shared the fact that I did not like the identity of being an American. Long before I was even outside the United States, I thought, hey, maybe I'd like to renounce my citizenship one day. I ultimately realized that on a doing that for a political reason, no one's going to cry over you. Don't waste your time. But eventually I realized I'm prepared. I feel comfortable overseas. I can do it. And yet I also talk to people who come to me and they say, hey, I'd like to lower my taxes, purely financial in many cases. Now we're seeing more people who want more freedom. But for many years, people who want to lower their taxes. When people realize what you've got to do, when they realize what expatriation entails, when they learn what living overseas entails and how long out of every year you have to live overseas to save money, some people don't do it. Or some people do it for a year and then they say, oh, Andrew, thank you so much, but can we please undo everything? I'm just going to go back. Or 2 years, I'm going to go back. Or they say, hey, I'm going to move overseas and then expatriate, and then they never expatriate. They get the passport, they never expatriate. Why? If you love your country, you're not going to give up your citizenship for any amount of money. Certainly not the fact that, yes, the U.S. taxes you no matter where you live, but if you're a business owner, okay, if you're an investor, that's one thing, but you still got Puerto Rico for that. But if you're a business owner, you can reduce your taxes dramatically by living overseas, running your business overseas, following a whole host of protocol. You can pay a heck of a lot less and potentially zero by living overseas, even as a U.S. citizen. Now, Do I think that avoiding tax is evading tax? Do I think those are the same thing? Well, first of all, legally speaking, evasion is illegal. And as you know, I am the goody two-shoes of the offshore world. I don't want to help anyone do anything wrong. If you have a tax issue, if you don't like paying your taxes, if you've been a tax protester, go call someone else. You live in the United States, you should pay. I'll help you go where you're treated best, but you got to follow the rules until you do that. And so legally speaking, technically speaking, they're not the same. But what he's saying is people who want to avoid taxes. Now, it's one thing to say, hey, listen, we're going to hold all of our shares, we're going to borrow up against them, and then one day we'll sell them. And we're going to pay a boatload of money, whether it's Bill Gates, Elon Musk, what have you. These guys are going to pay billions and billions and billions of dollars in taxes. You know what? I don't feel badly, quite frankly, that they may not be paying on the same regular basis that everyone else is, because everyone else is paying $5,000. All right? If I'm the U.S. government, I'll take Elon Musk's $5 billion plus all the other jobs and everything else he creates. I'll take the billions when he decides to sell over $3,259 from the average taxpayer or whatever the number is. And so I think there's this feeling in the West, which is part of why I left and which is part of what contributes to just this feeling of like, I don't really feel good here. When I go to some other countries, we've gotten calls from high-ups in government. We have, presidents of countries who know who we are, prime ministers who are like, oh, I see you're hiring here. I just wanted to call. What can we do for you? Ministers who say, hey, what can we do for you? Nobody ever called me in the U.S. What I got was a culture of people who think that, number one, why are you starting a business? That's stupid. You're too young, blah, blah, blah. Number two, why aren't you paying more? Nobody really wants to understand it. You go to parts of Asia, you go to parts of a lot of places in the world, people are like, ooh, entrepreneur, that's a badge of honor. Not in the West. Everyone wants you to feel guilty. I'm not going to feel guilty because, again, I know that nobody, sure, if you want to stay in the U.S. and you have this situation Elon Musk has, that's not most people. I had a reporter recently ask, and I said 62% of Americans don't pay any federal income tax in 2020. She said, well, but what about the billionaires? I said, yeah, 100 million versus like 100. And so it's all about whataboutism. So it's all about feeling guilty. You have a lot of angry people. You got the government, the politicians, fanning the flames. I'm not going to feel guilty. And especially I'm not going to feel guilty because for me, I have not been in the United States for years. Even as a U.S. citizen, I was barely there. I think I was there for like 7 days for multiple years in a row. I'm not even using the services. For the cost of printing my passport, I paid the fee. I'm sure it doesn't cost as much as they charge to print a passport. I guess there's some chips and electronics in there, so fair enough. But I've paid plenty. I bet Jim Cramer's paid plenty. And I'm not saying you should do any funny business because you're paying too much and so, hey, it's only fair. What I am saying is if we're setting tax policy, I don't make the laws. I will gladly follow the laws that the politicians, including some of the ones whining and complaining about how unfair it is, are making. Whenever I hear Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, shooting their mouths off, I mean, Bernie's been in politics for how many decades? If he was a real leader, he would get people to go and fix the tax system that he believes is so broken. They say, oh, he's been fighting for 50 years. Only in politics are you allowed to fight for 50. If I'm fighting in my business for 50 years and I still can't get what I want done, I would have closed up shop a long time ago. Bernie has no leadership. These guys don't have any leadership, but they're getting more leadership because more and more people in the country are going in their direction. Jim Cramer, of all people, is saying that rich people should step up and pay more taxes. I don't feel badly at all for following the law. If they want to change the law, I will adapt. And so nobody is paying more than is demanded. You can go to the IRS website. I was looking at other countries, the UK. You can send the Treasury there. They won't let them, give them some proper notice, please. But you can send them money. You can send a donation. You can send a patriotic gift to the United States or to other countries. Nobody's doing that. All these people who are complaining, the Abigail Disneys, where's their extra check? Where are they sending in their patriotic gift? They're not doing it. And so I am tired of shame, and I'm standing up for it. I'm tired of shamed for doing nothing wrong. You know what? I have, as a U.S. citizen, I lived overseas. I paid the tax. Some years I had to pay a little something. Some years I didn't have to pay much of anything. But I filed, I reported everything, I reported every bank account. I did nothing wrong. I followed the letter of the law. By the way, it caused a lot of anxiety some years because I am your walking R&D machine. I believe in being diversified. I had bank accounts all around the world. I had stuff all around the world. I had companies all around the world. I made sure to report every piece of it because I didn't want a problem. And so how dare anybody say that, oh, let's put avoid and evade in the same category? By the way, who's choosing what to avoid? Let's just say you run a business. And let's say you put all your money back into the business. I've worked with these guys before. They take tiny little salaries because they really believe in their company. And one day they want to sell it for a lot of money. And 10 years later, 20 years later, I've seen guys from, factories to restaurants to gas station chains to Amazon stores to all kinds of things where they build it up, they toil and they sweat. And I mean, sometimes when they've come to me over the years, it's hard for them to do all the offshore strategies they need because the income they're taking out themselves, or the income they want to take out of the company, is not as high as it could be. And these guys have a once in 20-year payday, and then are they avoiding tax? Are they evading tax? Of course not. It's organic behavior. So much of what happens in Western countries where taxes are sky high is people engage in inorganic behavior. They do stuff that's either legal or kind of gray or sometimes even black to reduce taxes, where they push expenses forward. They do all kinds of this kind of stuff, which again isn't always even something you're supposed to do. But they do it to try and get deductions. They sell stocks before or earlier they wanted to do it because listen, I don't have any lobbyists. I doubt you have any lobbyists. Nobody is going on my behalf to Washington or to any other nation's capital and like, hey, make sure you give Andrew a good deal. I, like you, whether you make $1 million, $10 million, even $50 million, I think. I mean, I know guys who are making, mid-8 figures. They don't have any, they're just normal people. They don't have any lobbyists. So we follow the tax code. We play by the rules. And then when we decide to go where we're treated best, well, I don't know, we got to kind of think avoid and evade. No, we don't. Because again, not everyone. I mean, my journey with this was I want to live overseas. Just for all kinds of personal reasons, for an adventure, for social, for everything, I want to live overseas. And as I get into it, I'm like, okay, well, what do I do about my taxes? How does that work? And I realized, oh, hey, it's a pretty good deal. Yeah, I've been paying a lot of taxes. Yeah, it sounds cool. That wasn't the driver. Am I avoiding? I wanted to leave. I followed the law, right? And if the U.S. said, well, hey, listen, there's no foreign income exclusion, I guess I would have paid. And I still would have lived somewhere else. A lot of people aren't avoiding and evading. And again, I don't think people are going to be engaging in different lifestyles to the point where they're moving overseas because they want to, necessarily because they're evading anything. It's how the law works. And I think we should stand up and say, follow the law. I'm all for it. I know there are people who criticize me. Ha, ha, ha. Only an idiot follows the law. Hey, that's great. Listen, go watch the guy making videos in front of an old shower curtain. Go work with him. But, if you want to change the laws that apply to you, I'm all for that. And I think we got to stand up. We have to stop people from saying, everyone's leaving the U.S. for taxes. It's not just that. People aren't trying to avoid. People aren't trying to evade. They're going where they're treated best, and they're following the law. We don't have lobbyists, and it's time someone said it. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.